What do childbirth, dinosaurs, and chicken all have in common? Well, they were all elements used to make this clusterfuck of a movie. Welcome to B-Movie Madness. I'm your host Mark, aka the Movie Buffer, and today we'll be taking a look at Carnosaur from 1993. In 1993, Jurassic Park wowed audiences around the world with its groundbreaking special effects and realistic portrayal of dinosaurs as animals rather than just basic movie monsters. That same year, another dinosaur movie was released, 2 weeks prior to the release of Jurassic Park, in fact. That movie was Carnosaur, which we'll be looking at today. As far as B-movie ripoffs go, Carnosaur has a bit of a reputation. For one, it's produced by none other than B-movie kingpin Roger Corman, whose IMDb page includes hundreds of films, spanning over 4 decades. Upon hearing that Spielberg was adapting Michael Crichton's science fiction techno-thriller into a major motion picture, Corman jumped at the opportunity to get his film made. Carnosaur is actually based on a novel as well, albeit very, very, very loosely. Essentially, this movie is like the sleazy, trashy uncle of Jurassic Park. Corman was known for making schlocky, low-budget sci-fi and horror films, oftentimes capitalizing on the success of major blockbuster films that were being released around that same time. Some of these films include Humanoids from the Deep, Death Race 2000, and Piranha, the last of which is actually pretty decent. Corman also helped jumpstart the careers of many well-known actors, including Sylvester Stallone, Jack Nicholson, and Robert Englund. He's also known for being notoriously cheap when it comes to the production value and effects in his movies, which is pretty evident just looking at the cover art of this film. One positive I'll say, at least they were transparent with their marketing, because what you see with the effects here is pretty much what you get in the actual film. The film also stars Diane Ladd as a mad scientist who has found a way to reverse engineer chickens in order to bring back dinosaurs. Ladd also just so happens to be the real-life mother of Laura Dern, who co-starred in Jurassic Park literally that very same month. Can you imagine how awkward Thanksgiving dinner must have been for these two? The film opens up with real footage from an actual slaughterhouse of chickens being slaughtered. Honestly, I'm more surprised that PETA didn't try boycotting this shit when it came out. Except I highly doubt that people were exactly rushing to the theaters in 1993 to see Carnosaur. We then transition to one of the darkest boardroom meetings, and I mean that literally, not just figuratively, because this room is dark as shit, where some government officials are meeting up to discuss Dr. Jane Tiptree. Apparently, the government has been helping fund her research for a number of years at this point, but due to her secrecy, are beginning to get a bit suspicious. Personally, I think they should be more concerned about the health standards of her company.
Oh, Jesus Christ, all over me.
Sorry. I think I'm allergic to chickens.
That doesn't explain why you had to turn directly at him to fucking sneeze. So this chicken factory is also Dr. Tiptree's lab. Here we see a bunch of caged chickens, including one that apparently exploded like a balloon, and left a neat little surprise behind, this damn near football-sized dinosaur egg. The wee baby dino pulls an alien facehugger move and rips out of its egg, leaping directly at this guy's face. But then it just draws on his face with some red crayon before running away. Dick move, dino. Oh hey, Clint Howard.
Never seen such nervous chickens.
Yeah, they're probably afraid your crazy ass is gonna try to fuck them. Looks like the dinosaur may have hitched a ride on this truck. Good thing security measures around here are extra tight though.
Sorry to say, no one in around.
Oh, I gotta get these cluckers over to Fort Rogers, and I'm 3 hours late.
Alright, we'll say you left already.
So yep, the dino has stowed away on one of the trucks. Another chicken explodes in the back, gaining the attention of the driver. He pulls over and goes to investigate, and then promptly gets his ass chewed for it. We then meet our hero of the film, this security guy named Doc. He's here to get drunk and chase away hippies with his gun. But mostly, he's just here to get drunk.
Hold it! I got a gun! I can't shoot for shit!
Said the stormtrooper to the Jedi. So Doc manages to capture and detain one of the trespassers, this hippie chick named Thrush. Ugh. Can't imagine naming my character after a yeast infection, but to each their own. The next day, Doc gets with the town sheriff, and they go to the local hippie colony to try and identify the girl. Doc sees her, but it looks like he's got a bad case of heartache.
No. She's not here.
She's not?
She's not here.
We then cut back to Dr. Tiptree's lab and just check out this guy's facial expressions.
None of the others did.
Perhaps it's an aberration of some kind.
But what is it?
I can't say.
But what do I tell the men that are searching for it?
They'll know it when they see it.
Well, that's helpful. We then go to a desert where a couple of 30-year-old teenagers are doing a little joyriding. Discount Edward Furlong here goes to take a whiz, leaving the other two to get their freak on.
Finally.
Woohoo! 30 seconds to ourselves! The dinosaur, which I'm convinced at this point is just Sam Raimi in disguise, runs up on the kid and slashes him. The kid then decides it would be funny to pull a prank on his friends. Then we get this ridiculous scene. Yep, so this is apparently what's been killing people. This tiny little dinosaur that's about the size of a house cat that manages to overpower and take down 3 grown-ass adults. Jesus, this thing is like a killer Muppet. One thing's for sure though, this movie does not skimp out on the gore. Later that night, Doc and Thrush come across the kid who was attacked in the Jeep earlier.
What's he saying?
I can't tell. I think he's speaking Spanish.
What? Why is this clown speaking Spanish all of a sudden?
Is that not the juiciest, sweetest, freshest tasting blueberry pie you've ever tasted? Now, what if I were to tell you that this blueberry pie could sit in a box on a shelf, not in a refrigerator, mind you, but on a shelf for up to 18 months without losing one blueberry's worth of flavor or freshness?
Yeah, well maybe I could actually enjoy it if you weren't sprawled across the table, staring at me directly in the face while talking about pie. So I'm gonna jump ahead just a bit to what is probably one of my favorite scenes upon rewatching this film, on account of how batshit crazy and nonsensical it is. So the crazy-eyed dude that was talking earlier apparently is the father of one of the kids who got mauled to death by the raptor, and he's obviously quite distraught about the whole situation. Thankfully, Dr. Tiptree is able to bullshit him by telling him that his daughter is still alive and is for some reason waiting for him down at the end of this long, dark tunnel, and he buys into it without a single question asked. This goes on for a little while, until all of a sudden he's in a giant laser room that has a motherfucking T-Rex being kept in it. No idea what this thing's doing down there, how it got there in the first place, or how Dr. Tiptree's managed to keep it alive while also keeping its existence a secret from the outside world. But sure, we'll just play along with it. You know, Spielberg probably could have saved himself a lot of money if he had just used hand puppets and action figures like this movie. Security team comes across the escaped raptor. They shoot at it and are then promptly murdered by choppy editing. And then this guy, for some reason, gets a chunk bit out of his stomach and it makes him foam out of the mouth. Whatever, let's just go with it.
Greetings,
loading screen, brother.
Yeah, that went about the way I expected it to. So what follows is another highlight of the movie. The hippies have all chained themselves to this construction equipment like a bunch of dumbasses. Probably not the best idea when you're in an area that has an unidentified meat-eating animal stalking around, but it makes for one hell of a spectacle. We're treated to lots of obnoxious screaming and overacting, face ripping, heads getting munched, severed limbs, and lots of fake-looking rubber dinosaur action. And who knew raptors had human hands? I also love how this chick stops screaming after her leg has been bitten off. So Doc shows up and witnesses the aftermath of the massacre, and even catches a glimpse of the raptor before it waddles its slow rubber ass away. But at least Thrush is alive. So naturally, you'd expect someone to be pretty shocked after witnessing a fucking real live dinosaur in the flesh. But Doc's reaction just comes off as being sort of miffed about the whole thing.
God damn it.
Fun fact, the main dinosaur featured in this film is not a velociraptor like you would expect, but rather a Deinonychus. This carnivore was believed to be actually closer in size to the velociraptors featured in Jurassic Park. The Deinonychus was a mix of full-size animatronic, a guy in a suit, and what appears to be a hand puppet at times. It goes without saying that the effects in this film are for the most part pretty trash. But hey, I'll take this over the PS1 level CGI that Sci-Fi Channel puts out. The dinos in this film were designed by John Carl Buechler, who actually has done some pretty decent work over the years. Listen, I don't care if the label says free-range organic or not. If I'm cracking open my eggs and they start oozing green shit, you better believe I'm taking them back. Well, maybe not, since apparently these eggs have little tiny dinosaur embryos growing inside them. How the hell is this possible, you might ask? Well, apparently Dr. Tiptree has somehow managed to mass-produce her chicken eggs with little microscopic dinos that rapidly grow upon hatching. But that's nowhere near as crazy as things are about to get. Doc stumbles across the wrecked security van from earlier, and after finding the mutilated corpses of the team, he manages to overhear a transmission from Dr. Tiptree. Doc impersonates one of the guards, which Tiptree somehow falls for, and when asked if he's managed to apprehend the escaped dino, says that he indeed has, and makes his way back to the lab.
Surprise.
So I know how insane this statement may come across, but this is where the movie just loses it and goes completely apeshit. After Clint Howard gets munched, not sure what exactly he was doing just wandering into this chicken farm in the middle of the night while eating a bucket of chicken. So Tiptree's assistant comes down with a fever and then ends up going into labor. 3 pushes later and she pops out a big old dinosaur egg. Oh, and it apparently also kills her in the process. Bro, I just saw a woman lay an egg. We then get a shit ton of exposition from Dr. Tiptree about how she wants to rid the Earth of humanity and give the planet back to the dinosaurs. Her plan is to engineer a virus that gets women pregnant with dinosaurs. Yeah, that's a real sentence. The dino babies will then presumably grow up and eat all the remaining males, eventually wiping out the entire human species. Not sure why she only decided to breed 2 species of dinosaur, both of which were carnivores. Even if she did manage to wipe out all humans, wouldn't these 2 predators eventually turn on each other? I mean, if we look at any ecosystem, modern or prehistoric, the ratio of plant-eating to meat-eating animals is always much higher. If these animals ended up essentially decimating the entire planet like Tiptree hopes for, they would pretty much end up wiping out their own food supply and in effect killing themselves eventually. Silly me, looking for reasonable logic in a Roger Corman film. I should know better.
That's really fabulous.
a great theme park.
Ah ha ha, I see what you did there.
Just imagine for a minute, 100 million years from now, a green, fertile planet with peaceful beings.
I don't know about the whole peaceful part, lady, but I guess whatever floats your boat. Alright, well I better wrap this thing up before I completely lose my mind, just like this movie. The sheriff gets ambushed by the Deinonychus, but manages to shoot it in the stomach, effectively wounding it in the process. Okay, so was the guy in the raptor suit like drunk or something? I love the way it just flops around after hitting the ground.
I just want some peace and quiet.
Goddamn annoying ass dinosaurs keeping me up all night. Can't a man get some sleep around here? So the sheriff gets a claw up his ass, but not before he manages to blow the raptor's head off. R.I.P. Mr. Deinonychus. So this whole third act is honestly a complete shit show, and is really what keeps this film from being a fairly entertaining, albeit cheaply made B-movie. We get more random footage of the government team walking into clinics of people who've been infected with the virus and shooting everybody they come across regardless of whether or not they have the virus. Then we have this dude who randomly rushes in at the last second to snap a picture, I guess to prove his work, and then they proceed to set all the bodies ablaze. We get more women popping out dino eggs.
Change from within. Genetic engineering as a substitute for pesticides. Tiptree's dissertation.
I know there's a joke in there somewhere. I'm honestly more preoccupied with trying not to vomit right now. So with the antivirus in hand, Doc manages to escape down the same laser room we saw earlier that had the T-Rex in it. He shoots one of the devices projecting the lasers, and is able to get out, but also sets our old pal Rexy free in the process. After temporarily forgetting how to use a ladder, Doc manages to escape the jaws of the Rex and find a way out of the complex. The T-Rex busts its way out this thick-ass concrete wall, like, Jesus Christ, I mean, I don't doubt Tyrannosaurus Rex was a powerful animal. After all, it was estimated to weigh in at around 7 tons, but I can't imagine its skull would have the same strength as a freaking wrecking ball. But I digress. So rather than see her work come to fruition, Dr. Tiptree decides to infect herself with her own virus and begins to go into labor as well. But then, rather than the dinosaur popping out of her baby cave like all the other victims so far, she ends up ripping open her stomach and basically gives herself a C-section. Now, with the escaped rubber T-Rex on the loose, Doc flees back to his trailer to give the serum to Thrush, who has apparently also become sick with Tiptree's virus. There was a scene I skipped over earlier where Doc and Thrush are talking, and she does mention that this section of the desert where his trailer is located was believed to be a highway that dinosaurs would have used to migrate millions of years ago. Fearing that the carnivore might somehow remember and be instinctively taking this same path back in the direction of his home, him and Thrush flee the trailer. But it's too late. The man in the T-Rex suit has arrived. Conveniently, the construction crew left all of the equipment with the keys in the ignition, and the two flee in a couple of Bobcat tractors. Doc decides his only option is to fight the beast head-on, and hey, does this scene look familiar to anyone? We get a decent enough fight between Doc and the T-Rex, even if it is basically the same 4 or 5 camera angles that they keep reusing. During this whole sequence, the Rex constantly switches between this shitty looking hand puppet and the actually somewhat decent looking full-size animatronic. It's just a shame that they barely seem to use the animatronic version. Plus, the two designs don't even remotely match one another. So Doc rams into the Rex a few times, it bites his Bobcat, and then eventually manages to tip the entire vehicle over. He gets into the other Bobcat with Thrush, God, I hate that name, and then rips into the Rex's belly with the claw, fatally wounding the beast.
I hate wildlife.
Maybe work on the one-liners a little bit, though. Alright, so, happy ending. Our hero took out the big boss dino, saved the girl, and he now has the cure for the virus. Wait, what just happened? Okay, yeah, so this shitty, depressing downer of an ending is really what kind of kills what little enjoyment I do get out of this first Carnosaur film. I mean, we root for this character throughout all of these crazy events. He even manages to have a sort of badass one-on-one battle with the big dino, and then the government just shows up and kills them, and also destroys the antivirus. That is totally not going to be mentioned in any of the sequels, probably because the concept of a virus that makes women birth dinosaurs was every bit as stupid on film as it sounds on paper. And just to make you guys feel even shittier, the very last shot of this film is of Alfred E. Newman here to laugh at everyone who wasted their time and money sitting through this pile of dino doo. Is it just me, or does it sort of feel like the director has given the whole audience the middle finger right now? So, that was Carnosaur. And, well, it's a movie. Before I start dumping all over this film, I will say there are a few positives. This movie definitely does not hold back when it comes to gore. We're treated to severed heads, limbs, face ripping, and much more. The storyline, while convoluted and hard to follow, was intriguing in parts, especially the whole concept of reverse engineering chickens to create dinosaurs. Being that birds are believed to be descended from certain dinosaurs, this is actually a rather cool concept to tinker with. Unfortunately, it doesn't really go anywhere. The acting isn't terrible by B-movie standards. I do appreciate a dino movie that isn't afraid to get bloody and have a darker tone. Unfortunately, the film just completely loses itself by the third act. You could have literally cut out all the subplots involving women birthing dinosaurs, the whole government contingency plan, and trying to find the serum to the virus. The ending is just a little too abrupt and downbeat for my taste. I mean, I can totally appreciate a film having a darker ending and even having its hero die at the end. Hell, I actually really dug that aspect in Alien 3. But it just feels cheap in this instance. Like the writers and director couldn't agree on an ending, so they just decided to have everyone die in the end. Thankfully, Carnosaur 2 and 3 ditch all these crazy side plots in favor of a more streamlined and straightforward approach to doing a B-movie. We'll take a look at those films soon enough. But until then, this has been Mark, aka the Movie Buffer. Ciao for now.